Hey guys, it's Asif at thinkasif.ca. Today we have Michael Yosher from Integrity Mortgage Solutions joining us. We're going to have a conversation about a really hot topic, which is private mortgages. It's a really big thing for 2018 after the rule changes happened. So Mike, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me, what is a private mortgage?
Well, simply put, a private mortgage is any mortgage that comes from an individual who lends to another individual or from some sort of group of individuals or even a smaller company. But the idea of private mortgage is basically that it doesn't come from an institution. It's not something that comes from a large bank or a trust company.
So who would get a private mortgage?
So generally, Asif, there's a few different kinds of borrowers that typically get private mortgages. One of them being someone who is in need of some credit repair. For whatever reason, they went to the bank and they couldn't qualify. They need some time, give it 6 months, a year, or so on to fix their credit to be able to go back to a bank.
Okay.
Another type of borrower who would need a private mortgage is someone who's self-employed.
Okay.
So someone who may do very well in their business, but they don't declare enough of a net income for the bank to give them a mortgage. And as you know, years ago it was very simple for self-employed individuals to get a mortgage. They simply had a certain amount down payment, and the bank was like, "Here's your mortgage." Right?
Yeah.
And those days, unfortunately, are gone. Right?
Yes, they are.
So self-employed people generally are ones that fit into that box. Sometimes it's people that were declined by their bank, in a late stage. Like, they have a closing coming up in a week and they thought everything was okay. Their bank advisor or the manager said, "You're going to get a mortgage, no problem." And the bank comes back and says, "Oh, sorry, we can't do it." Right? Another situation is somebody falls behind on their income taxes or their property taxes. As you know, a bank won't let you refinance if you're behind on taxes, right?
Yeah.
So a private mortgage can always help in that situation.
Okay.
And in all those situations, what is common to all those situations is that private mortgages are inherently there for a very short term.
Okay.
Right. And a short term, we can be anywhere between a month to a year to 18 months or 2 years. Just depends on the situation. Okay. But it's never meant to be a long-term solution.
Okay. So tell me what the difference is in pricing between the bank and a private mortgage.
Well, a bank will be anywhere between 2.5% and say 4%, whereas private mortgages start about 6-7% and can be as high as 13 or 14%, depending on the situation and the risk level.
Okay. And are there fees or stuff like that?
Sure. So on top of the rate, there's typically a lender fee. Sometimes there isn't, depends on the lender. And there's usually a broker fee. Okay. And lenders and brokerage fees typically range 1% to 2%. If it's a smaller loan, it may be a flat fee, like say $2,000 or $3,000. So it may not be percentage based. It may just be like a flat amount. And then obviously you have other fees, like there's always the lender's lawyer, which can range anywhere between $1,200 to $2,500. Again, depending on the complexity and size of the deal. You have an appraisal cost to appraise your house. Okay. And that can, depending on if you have a $2 million home versus a $700,000 home, some appraisal companies charge you a little bit more. That can range anywhere between $350, $400 to I've seen $1,000 appraisal as well. Just for a house.
So tell me, for those that don't understand, why would it be that much higher in pricing and fees and stuff like that?
Sure. Well, there's an added risk, right? Like if you took your money, you took your hard-earned money, $50,000, $100,000, $300,000, you're lending it to somebody. There's a greater element of risk, and you need to be compensated for that risk. So it's a risk-adjusted return. For the lenders and for the investors. Okay.
So that leads me right into, tell me the pros and cons. If I'm a borrower, what are the risks involved for me? Like, what are the pros and cons? Is it safe for me to get a private mortgage?
Well, it's definitely safe if, first of all, you pay your bills on time. Any private mortgage, no matter who you're with, even if you're with the bank, if you're not able to keep up with your payments, that's definitely going to be a bad situation for you, right? So from that perspective, the risk is kind of the same. It may be a little bit higher with the private lender, and that a private lender, because it's their own hard-earned money, they're not going to sit around for months and months while you figure things out. You really should be forthcoming with any situations that may arise in order to be able to make amends and come up with a plan to catch up. So from that perspective, there is that risk. It's also costlier, obviously, so it costs more than the bank to do a private loan. And it is a short-term solution. So it's not something where you got the mortgage and now you're good for 5 years. You got it for a few months, 6 months, a year, and so on. and now you got to figure out how to get out of the private mortgage.
Okay.
But the advantage of the private mortgage is that it's much easier to qualify. It's a simpler qualification than the bank.
Mm-hmm.
They typically don't go into the same, ratio calculation that a bank does and so on. It's mostly based on, the equity of the home.
Mm-hmm.
They will look at your credit. They will look at your cash flow situation to make sure that you can maintain your payments.
Okay.
Right? But it's still a simpler qualification in speed. Something that private mortgage can help with is simply that you have an answer very quickly and that you have an approval very fast so that you can, put the money to use towards whatever it is that you need to put it towards.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you again for joining us. That's all we have for today. If anybody needs to get a hold of Mike or has any questions, his information's at the end of the video clip, or contact me and I'll get you in touch with him. So thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.